Meghan Markle going to have to put on her Rachel Zane best, as she will be forced to testify as part of the discovery process for her sister Samantha's lawsuit. Hello everyone, welcome back to Royal News Network. My name is Brittany, and today we are talking about Markle versus Markle. Yes, Samantha Markle filed a defamation suit against her half-sister Meghan over some of the comments that Meghan made in the Oprah Winfrey interview. Specifically, a decent amount of it focused around how Meghan described herself as an only child, even though she actually has two half-siblings. And there's a couple other lies about her history, how she grew up and everything that Samantha really wants to challenge, because she says, no, Meghan, that's not the case. And I want to prove, because we have been maligned as a family, that what you're saying is false. And Meghan has tried to get this case dismissed already, and she's been unsuccessful thus far. And as part of it, she will be forced to testify and in a recorded setting, and most likely that testimony will be made available to the public. We've seen this in several civil cases recently, the Heard case and the case against Theranos. When it came to these defamation lawsuits, oftentimes they're filmed and oftentimes they're made available. So Harry and Meghan, who have tried to carefully construct this narrative, this mirage of who they are, they may be really challenged. And there's a lot of interesting details in these legal documents that I'll go over. And I think Meghan may find herself on the opposite end of a lawyer, and it may not go so well, because live by the sword, die by the sword, they say, or live by lawyers, die by lawyers. Well, not exactly die, but you get my drift. Anyways, but if you guys haven't been here to Royal News Network before, like I said, my name is Brittany, and on this channel I provide compelling royal commentary about the latest news and a little bit of gossip as well. I have been an avid royal watcher for over 10 years, not only the British royals, but all the royals. So I feel like I have a very good understanding of how the royal system works generally in the interactions between various members and families. And so I like to bring that background in addition to my background as a historian there to give you guys some compelling analysis about what's going on within the royal sphere. In addition, I will be hopefully reviewing television shows and movies and sharing a bit about history as well. So if that's something of interest to you, feel free to subscribe. And if you haven't had a chance yet, check out my interview with Angela Levin. There we go over her latest book about Queen Camilla, from royal outcast to queen consort. We talk about Charles, Diana, Prince Harry, Meghan Markle. We talk about Prince William and Catherine. And so we just cover a broad range of topics. It's a really great interview, and I've gotten a ton of positive feedback about it. And so I would just strongly encourage you guys to watch it, because the more people who watch the interviews, the more I can do, and the more it helps the channel continue to grow. So I would love for you to do that. And if you haven't subscribed already, oh my gosh, we are closing in on 100,000 subscribers, and I want to hit that before my 1-year anniversary date. So I started uploading videos in early March 2022, and so if I could hit that 100K mark before then, oh guys, I would be so excited. So if you have been lingering around this channel and aren't sure yet, please hit that subscribe button. I would just so appreciate it. And also sign up for Royal Wire if you're interested. On there, I provide some compelling commentary in addition to news throughout the week. Sometimes we'll put in a bit of history there as well, and a couple other things. I also have a fashion channel, which I will admit is on a bit of a hiatus, but should be back up and running pretty soon. And I also have an upcoming trip to the UK and the Cotswolds, so mainly London and the Cotswolds. So if you guys are interested in that, you can sign up for that as well. But back to this case, Markle versus Markle. Yeah, so I found so at least some of the actual legal documents. And I didn't have a time to search for all of them, but I actually found a really interesting one. And this is from last year, I think, this is from June last year, trying to dismiss the judge over favoritism. So I'll go over that at the very end, because I think there's some interesting tidbits in there as well. But we'll start with the main one that was filed today. So this is part of Meghan's effort to not have to testify, so not have to go on the record on anything that she's ever said. In addition, she is also trying to get the case dismissed. And the judge said, well, some aspects of your case are definitely worthwhile that we may dismiss them. But right now, it can go forward. In addition to that, you can be compelled to testify along with your husband. In civil cases, I try to suss this out a bit, and I will be honest and say I don't know if I quite hit it the way I should have. because I just don't know that much about the legal sphere. I'll be totally honest. If you talk to a lawyer about some of the more complicated aspects of this, but this is a civil trial, as far as I'm aware. It's a civil trial, so that means the burden of proof is on the plaintiff. So Samantha Markle has to prove that Meghan defamed her, and she has to prove it to a 50% chance or something like that. So she doesn't have to give. It doesn't have to be beyond a reasonable doubt, but it has to show a preponderance of evidence that either the plaintiff or defendant is 50% at fault. So if Samantha Markle can prove that Meghan Markle is 51% responsible for this salacious allegations against her family, then Samantha Markle wins. And of course, the opposite is true as well. And so the burden of proof here is much, much lower than it is in a criminal trial. In addition, Samantha's really not asking for that much money. She's asking for $75,000, which I think is not too bad. And so we're getting to this point where it's the discovery process. And part of what these lawyers apparently want to prove, or at least ask Meghan about, is whether or not the Queen and King Charles were racist or are racist. And another point of contention is whether or not Meghan actually had to climb into the back of her SUV, her Ford Explorer. And these are very crucial questions, because the problem with Meghan has always been is that she spun tall tales. She spins tales all the time, and she gets away with it quite a bit, even though some things are like obvious, make no sense. The stupid soap commercial, that she keeps railing on that she personally, her little letter as a no-name 12-year-old girl changed a multi-million-dollar soap campaign, is so ludicrous and insane. You literally have to believe Santa Claus is real to believe that is actually the case. Nobody cared about Meghan Markle as a child, except for her parents and the usual people that do. The general public, P&G, a massive soap company, a massive household cleaner company, does not care that one little girl had an issue with their commercial. What they cared about is if thousands or millions of women have an issue with that commercial. That's when they care. So this idea that Meghan solely is responsible for changing that campaign is lunacy. It's absolute lunacy, yet she keeps railing on it. She had to even go over it once again in her Spotify series, in the Netflix series. Even if she is producing a book like the rumors are saying, she'll go over this again. And it's just one of those things where it's like, Meghan, just let it go. Let it go. Nobody's buying it. Anybody with half a brain knows that cannot be actually possible. But she keeps going on it. And the same thing goes with the Oprah Winfrey interview. Harry tried to walk back the racist allegations in his interview with Tom Bradby, and it didn't go well. He got very, very defensive, and he's like, well, we never said that. The British media said that. So go ahead and take a listen here.
In the Oprah interview, you accuse members of your family of racism. You don't even...
Well, the British press said that. Did Meghan ever mention they're racist?
She said there were troubling comments about
there was concern about his skin color.
Right.
Okay, so Harry, I'm so sorry. I know this is really, really hard for you to understand, but Meghan made it very, very clear, not saying the words directly, but she implied heavily. Oprah went with it heavily, and Meghan never corrected her, is that the comments made against Archie means that somebody in the royal family is racist. And they doubled down the next day pretty much by saying, well, it wasn't the Queen or Prince Charles. That basically says that Oprah's inference was true. Gayle King's inference was true. Everybody else who agreed that what you said about the racist allegations, they were true. And then Harry goes, no, that was just the British media concocting it. I was like, well, the American media did it too, bud. So it's not just the British. You can't blame the British here. You have to blame yourselves. And so that is one of the points of contention here. And Harry and Meghan, especially Meghan, she spins, like I said, a lot of tales, but she's not usually held to account for them. Because you have to go back to when Meghan was just a no-name actress that nobody cared about. She was a bit player. She could say whatever she wanted, and that's what she did. I think that, and this has always been my opinion, that Meghan exaggerates, inflates a lot of what she does. And at the time when she was a D-list actress, nobody cared. Why would you? Why would you care that this woman from Suits is telling you that she changed the soap commercial? Like, are you going to double check it? No. Is it a nice story? Sure. So they just went along with it because there wasn't any incentive for them to care, for them to poke and prod at the story. But once Meghan elevated herself to the status as royal, to almost beyond A-list, although now she's dropped down to C-list yet again, is that she continues to try to spin these, but people poke holes in them, and she doesn't know quite what to do about it. And so she concocts and inflates and spins more and more, trying to make everything make sense, because it all has to go in the direction Meghan Markle wants. But again, once again, that's not reality. And so this case is going to be an opportunity, I think, in so many ways to try to not only correct the narrative, but put Meghan on the record and have her actually be challenged. What she has never been since she left the royal family is challenged. And a lawyer, no matter how much Meghan played Rachel Zane on Suits, an actual lawyer who's there to trip you up will probably trip you up. Meghan's pretty good at word salad nonsense, but I don't think she's as bright as she thinks she is. And I think she'll get tripped up. Even though she's good at manipulating, I think, and she's good at really putting her best foot forward in a lot of ways, this is another game. This is another level. And that's why, in part, she's so desperate to throw it out. And so here's some of what we got from this case. So it says, this cause comes to before the court upon motion to stay discovery filed by defendant Meghan Markle. So in legal documents, in legal terms, Meghan Markle is still Meghan Markle, or Rachel Meghan Markle, and Catherine Middleton is actually still Catherine Middleton. She cannot legally, in the UK, adopt the surname Mountbatten Windsor because she's not a blood royal. I know, this is a thing. Upon careful consideration, the court will deny the motion. In this action, it says Samantha Markle sues Meghan Markle for defamation and injurious falsehood. And she is now, so this is Meghan, is asking the court to stay discovery pending resolution of her motion to dismiss. Defendant Markle argues that the requested stay of discovery is reasonable because the motion to dismiss is likely to be successful. An order granting it would entirely dispose of the case. So Meghan wants this case thrown out. And I somewhat get it. Obviously, that's a good legal move. But Meghan, again, she's somebody who runs her mouth and doesn't think to a lot of extent that anybody's going to hold her to account. Not to mention the fact she doesn't mind slandering her family and thinks they won't retaliate. They're going to start to retaliate. Meghan, I think, thought she could just barrel her way through them and nobody would say anything. It's like, no, Samantha Markle, she's going to fight back here. And it may not be pretty. Meghan also contends that if the first amended complaints were dismissed, any further amendment would be futile and that plaintiff Markle would not be prejudiced by stay of discovery. Plaintiff Markle opposes a request for a stay, arguing that defendant is merely seeking to delay the case and that prompt discovery is required to address the factual issues raised in the motion to dismiss. So what's undercurrents of this case is a lot of the factual issues. What is Meghan saying? Is it correct or not? And that is a huge point of contention. Is what Meghan is saying is correct? Because she lives or dies by her word. But unfortunately, as she becomes more and more likable, her word has less and less weight. And as you're found to be in inconsistencies and saying things that are factually untrue or false or misleading, your record, your public reputation continues to take a hit. And so it says that the pendency of a motion to dismiss normally will not justify a unilateral motion to stay discovery, depending the court's resolution of motion to dismiss. So what that is saying is that usually in these cases, just because the defendant wants to dismiss the motion doesn't necessarily mean that the stay of discovery can be stopped, unless it's just abundantly clear that the case is ridiculous. So this shows me, to a certain extent, the judge thinks that this has some merit to go forward. If it was completely ridiculous and out of the question, the judge would just throw it out. But there's enough interest, or there's enough questions in this, and it's based off something rather factual. Meghan saying, I'm an only child, when she could have simply said, because my siblings, my half-siblings, were so much older, I felt like an only child. But again, Meghan didn't do that. She said, I was an only child. So that's part of what Samantha is challenging. And Samantha is challenging this idea that Meghan's whole family didn't care about her, nobody spent time with her, that she was alone, that she endured this horrible childhood. And that's what Samantha's fighting against, going, no, that's not the case. You're making me look bad. You're making the family look bad. So these issues have to be addressed. So it goes on to say that the court must balance the harm produced by the delay in discovery against the possibility that the motion will be granted and entirely eliminate the need for such discovery. So again, they're weighing, will this case go forward? Will it not? Does it have merits does it have merits? And so it has to balance these and say, okay, we're willing to go this way or that way. And so at the end, it decides here, defendant Markle does not show that unusual circumstances justify the requested stay, or that prejudice or an undue burden will result if the court does not impose a stay. And she goes on to say, although a preliminary peek at the motion to dismiss suggests that some of the claims against her may be ripe for dismissal, the review does not reveal at this time a clear indication that the court will dismiss action in its entirety. Thus, defendant Markle does not satisfy the high standard required to stay discovery, pending the resolution of a dispositive motion. I pronounced that wrong and I'm getting stuck, so we're going to go. Having balanced the harm produced by delay in discovery against the possibility that the court will grant the motion to dismiss, the court will deny the motion to stay discovery. And when I looked on the website as well, it looks like there's another Markle versus Markle hearing of some sort on February 15th. That's next week. So I was looking at the docket and it looked like that was there as well. And it's just interesting to consider that the judge is like, well, I kind of see your point, Meghan Markle, but I also think that if this case goes forward and it has some merits, I can't delay it just because you don't want it. Because when Meghan was in the UK, when she was suing in the UK, the royal title carried. The royal title helped her. There was a respect for the institution, which I think protected her to a certain extent, because even the judges, I think, realized that if they put her through the rigmarole of testifying, it's not going to look good on the monarchy. Now, that wasn't really the case. The legal case was decided basically based on a technicality, which many called into question after the case was resolved, going, yeah, we shouldn't have this on the books, because basically it allows celebrities to overly protect themselves in a way that they shouldn't be able to. I can't remember the exact specifics, but even Boris Johnson mentioned, oh, we really shouldn't have this on the books. And so that one actually might be amended because of Meghan Markle. So all the celebrities in the UK who are trying to protect themselves, you can thank Meghan if the case goes forward and you don't like it. And so this deposition process can go forward. Harry and Meghan can be called to account for what they've said, and they're not going to get a sympathetic audience this time. They're not going to get a sympathetic ear. They're going to get aggressive lawyers who are very, very interested, because it will make their case if they can take down Harry and Meghan. That'll be huge. Not take down in a bad way. I mean, Harry and Meghan will still do their things. But if they can destroy some of the carefully curated and managed narrative that Meghan has put together, that'll be huge. Not to mention the fact it may poke a lot of holes in what Meghan has told Harry. Because I think one of the big things that we forget is that I think Meghan sold Harry a basket of goods that wasn't true. She spun him a tale about her terrible family and how awful they were and how she grew up alone and that he came to save her. I think that's the story she spun him. But as time goes on, that's just no longer the case. And so Harry will have to face the reality potentially that his wife lied to him about certain things. And this case may bring some of that to light in ways that Meghan never wanted it to. So again, it'll be super interesting to see how this all comes together. And I think Meghan on the stand will be very, very interesting. We've seen the Amanda Heard stuff. We've seen stuff related to Theranos. I think we'll see something very, very similar when it comes to this case. And apparently they have been able to delay it till July, so that's after the coronation, and that is after the Trooping the Color. So they may be there for both of the events. They may go for just the coronation, or they may go for Trooping the Color. As it has been sort of officially somewhat confirmed that only working royals will be on the balcony, which is what I always suggested would happen. And it looks like more and more. Katie Nichols said that as well. That's probably going to be the case. And I believe Angela Levin, who I interviewed, who, again, you should check that out, said that as well. So I think this is something where Harry and Meghan are going to have to face the Piper in a way they haven't before. But there was also something interesting. So when I was first looking up the judge, it was actually this motion that came up first. And so this is the one filed in June of last year. And it was a motion to disqualify Judge Honeywell, who's presiding over the case. And part of the reason is that she was appointed to this bench by Barack Obama. And Samantha goes through and talks about how there's been this close connection between Harry and Meghan and Barack and Michelle. And I thought it was really interesting is that It says the Duchess met privately with First Lady Michelle Obama in 2018, which we knew about, in 2020. So I wonder when the 2020 was at that big conference that Harry spoke at right before the pandemic really ratcheted up. When did they speak or meet privately? I thought that was really, really interesting. And the Duchess and the former president share the same communications team lead. And I'm like, okay, so is that Sunshine Sachs? Is that James Holt? Who is that communications lead? I thought that was very, very interesting. So that motion was dismissed. Judge Honeywell is also a woman of color, so I'm sure that to a certain extent worried Samantha as well. But as time goes on, even when that was originally filed, that original motion to dismiss, I felt like Meghan had a bit more clout, a bit more capital to work with. But as the reality TV series has come out, as Harry's book has come out, Harry and Meghan, again, they've plummeted into the depths of public hatred, I guess you could say. Meghan remains one of the most unpopular royals, sort of kind of down there with Prince Andrew. And you just look at all this and go, and so I think Meghan's ability to have her status as a royal mean something is very minimal here. And I will say, although the Duchess of Sussex was used in the June announcement, it wasn't made in the June court papers, it wasn't made in these February court papers. So I think people are getting less and less amused by using the royal titles. It's like, she's a Duchess of Sussex in America. Give me a break. So it'll be very fascinating to see what happens when Harry and Meghan are forced to testify, and if this is not dismissed, or at least aspects of it aren't dismissed, because I think Samantha deserves to have her day in court. I'm not one who has been super on the side of the Markles, because I think obviously if Meghan has issues, there's issues that extend to other members of the family as well. I'm not denying that in the slightest. But it'll be fascinating to see what happens when Meghan is forced to deal with an actual lawyer. Not a sympathetic ear like Oprah, not her self-indulgent archetypes podcast. She'll actually deal with somebody who's there to trip her up. And as bright as Meghan thinks she is, I think she'll have a really tough time with it. Especially somebody who doesn't show her the deference she believes she deserves. And somebody who is there to basically try to trip her up, try to mess her up, try to confuse her, try to do everything they can to manipulate the situation so that Samantha Markle comes out on top. And I have no doubt that aggravates Meghan to such an inane and insane extent, because Meghan values above everything else control and the veneer that she has put together for herself and Harry. She even said it again, once again I say it, in the reality TV show. Meghan said she didn't want to know, she didn't want to Google Harry. She didn't want to research him at all. She wanted to see his Instagram. And to me, that shows me is that Meghan is interested in the Instagram veneer you can put on yourself, in this fake persona that you can craft and create, rather than being somebody who is open and vulnerable. Meghan really wants this carefully curated and managed image. And anytime somebody pokes holes in that, that's an immense threat to her. So guys, let me know what you think of this video. Let me know what you think of Meghan potentially being forced to testify. I think that's kind of interesting. And I'll be on the lookout for the update court case that we'll get on February 15th. So I'll be on the lookout for that. I tagged the page, and so we'll see what happens in the next steps of Markle versus Markle. So guys, thanks again for watching. I look forward to seeing you again soon. Bye.